If you're over 50 and you've ever thought that you wanted to start a podcast or a YouTube channel, very much like I'm doing right here, then this video is for you. I get asked this question all the time. Well, I won't say even the question, but it's almost like a wondering when I talk to people in my daily life and they're just like, gosh, I really like your podcast. I really like your channel, but I just wish I could do something like that. And I just have to, kind of shake them right there and say, it is not too late. And it definitely is the perfect season for people like us who are in midlife showing up online in places like this to create those conversations, because there's a whole lot of us that are wanting to have these types of discussions about our life experiences and looking for tips of how to level up during this season of life. So if that is you, if you've been wondering about this at any point, then stick around because I've got some tips for you. So I have, I have to go to my own personal story and tell you that if you go back and you look at my channel and you look at some of the early videos, you will see that things look a lot different from what they do today. But I was in the middle of my own midlife transition. I'm still in the middle of my own midlife transition. Who am I kidding? But at least back then, it was just an idea of some things that I wanted to do. And when I decided that I wanted to start this podcast, it was very intentional that I wanted it to be a video podcast. I wanted, as a Black woman in midlife, I wanted to be able to show up online in a visual sense. And I wanted it to be understood that it was from the perspective of me as a midlife Black woman. Doesn't mean that the conversation is going to just narrow to only that perspective, but I wanted people like me, other women like me, other people like me and my husband, couples that were going through downsizes, to just be able to have that visual along with the stories that we were verbally exchanging. And it may not be important to anybody else, but that was my story. That was my why, that we were learning so much through these experiences, and I just wanted a platform that would allow me to share that at scale. So that was me. That was one of my whys, my midlife transition, and so many of the things that I was learning that I wanted to share, and just not gatekeep with all of this. I want to build a community around these experiences. So having this space to be able to share it and get the stories out there and invite other people into it to share their stories as well. That was why I got started here. And you may have a different why. Maybe you've got some hobbies, maybe you've got some experiences, some expertise somewhere, and you would like to be able to share it. So you're thinking, I think I might want to start a podcast. Well, let's do it. And I will give you a disclaimer that this video is not meant to be a technical deep dive. Yeah, I do have a technical background and we could easily go into something like that. But this is more about giving you the permission and the courage to just get started with whatever it is that you are wanting to share in a very visual way, very public visual way. But I will say, put it in the comments. Let me pause right there and say that if a technical deep dive is something that you need, I'm happy to provide that. So just let me know in the comments and you say, hey, this video was cool, but it wasn't enough. I want to know the how-tos. I want you to share your screen and do the step one, click here, step two, click there. I'm happy to do it. But either way, stay tuned and I got a couple of tips for you. Tip number one is I want you to be very clear with what your purpose is for having a podcast or a YouTube channel. And it might be that you are an authority in one particular area. Could be anything, like I said, hobbies, professional skills. Maybe there's stories that you want to share. Maybe you have a ministry that you are passionate about and you want to, go someplace online in a digital space to have those conversations. Or maybe you're trying to build a community around any of those things. It doesn't matter. I mean, but you definitely need to be very clear on what that's going to be. Now, for me, my why or my authority, so to speak, was about the midlife career transitions. So this is why I created this space, was initially to talk about people that were trying to level up professionally over 50. But I say that it has gone a couple of different ways, still with that as the core, but then bringing in stories of so many other people that can tell you all the highs and lows of their experiences, and maybe even give you some ways to avoid some of the pitfalls that they've had or experienced. But I will say this, that as a midlife professional, this is tip number 2. I'm messing this up, so I hope y'all can bear with me. Tip number 2, hopefully can edit this a little bit better. It is about you sharing your lived experience as your advantage. And I know that we are in an age, or really just, our world, we praise and worship youth. We chase youth. We do all of these things to try to look young, appear young, be younger, whatever. But I really feel that when it comes to sharing stories and sharing experiences, because you're in midlife, you've lived a lot. You have stories and lessons that other people can benefit from. And whatever it may be, whatever your particular angle is, there's somebody out there that can benefit from it. So think about it this way. I mean, I have had conversations, countless conversations with folks that really believe that they just don't have anything to share. And I'm just like, we're all ordinary people. When you sit at the dinner table or when you go to a party and you're sharing stories, somebody is listening and somebody is grateful to have been in your presence and heard that information and learned from you. And that's all it really has to be. You are imperfect, you are very flawed, and you have stories that someone is going to learn from. So don't hold back. You don't necessarily have to, vomit all of your personal information when you get into these online spaces. But I will say that being able to pick and choose and share the things that are relevant for folks to be able to grow from is going to be appreciated. And I look at myself, I mean, yes, I've had my husband on here, I've had other colleagues come onto my channel and share their stories, but if you really, really pay attention, we're not sharing a deep, deep personal information. We're not sharing everything about our personal lives, but we're sharing the things that are relevant, the things that people actually can learn from. So keep that in mind. It's not like, again, social media influencers where you're taking a camera everywhere into the bathroom and everywhere that you shop for groceries. You don't have to do that. It is your choice. You control what everybody sees. You control the parts of you that you want to share. And again, it's all about your audience benefiting from your stories and your experiences and the lessons they can learn from that. Here is tip number 3, and it goes back to the technology. I don't want you to wait to start your podcast or your YouTube channel because you think you need perfect technology. And believe me, I was one of those people because I went down that whole YouTube rabbit hole trying to figure out what kind of camera did I need, what other, software that I needed to purchase. And it turned out that everything that you see, and I'm doing my hands as if you can see what the tech stack is. I'll pull it out all out. What you're looking at with me recording right now, this is all on my iPhone. And it is attached to a tripod that is a 5 foot tall tripod that is adjustable. So I'm able to lower it or raise it. And I'm not a tall person, I'm a very short person. So 5 feet is pretty much putting me at eye level with it. So I can fold this up or collapse it and put it in my purse or my backpack, and I can take it with me someplace, like when I travel. And I also have lighting. So I'm going to pull this into the shot, and it's going to mess up my lighting. I have some lighting panels like this that I purchased on Amazon. And I'm not even going to bother you telling the brand because, quite frankly, I don't remember what brand it is. But that also tells you how unimportant it can be to focus on the brands and the pricing and all that jazz. I am super cheap, so I keep things pretty basic. But that's what I have. I have two of those lighting panels. I've got my iPhone right now attached to a tripod in front of me. I'm sitting on a chair in my bedroom, and I have another thing, two things actually. I've got two microphones, two clip-on microphones like this that I also purchased on Amazon. and they are connected by Bluetooth plugged in to a receiver that's on my iPhone. That is it. And quite frankly, I may not even need all of this because, like the lighting panels, they come in handy if I'm recording something at night. But really, sunshine is probably the best lighting that I could ever use. So when I record these talking head videos like this, it usually is in front of a window so that I can get lighting on my face and it makes me look like I got made up when I maybe haven't. So anyway, all that to be said is that these are all things that I really already had here, except for the lighting. So those are the things that you can just shop for on Amazon and just get started. Don't make it more complicated, because the more complicated you make it, it's going to cause you to delay, and you will use that as an excuse one day to not get started at all. I don't want that for you. Okay, I'm I'm showing you the microphones. Okay, it comes in a little baggie like this when I ordered it on Amazon, and I am jacking this up. But it also comes with these little, I don't know what they're called, wind sock. Okay, somebody correct me. I know that it's the little fluffy things. They look like almost like feathers, but it's supposed to block when the wind or when you're recording outside. So anyway, that's what my little microphone set looks like. Two mics. There's a teeny little receiver that's plugged into the phone jack, and it goes into a little sack like this so that I can actually take it with me if I ever want to record while I'm traveling. Now, tip number 4 is how you're going to use all of these things. And it's not a lot. Remember, we're starting simple. So, at least with me, I personally, when I talk to folks about presenting, talking online or whatever, I personally believe that audio is the most important element. So when I was first getting started with this, that's what I cared about the most, was making sure that you could hear me more than anything else, because y- whether it's presenting online or doing a podcast or a YouTube channel or whatever, your audience will disconnect quicker when they can't hear you than for any other reason. And that is, it makes audio paramount to the whole process. So whether I am talking to people that are prepping for this type of setup, or even if they're prepping for an online job interview, or maybe a presentation that they have to give in front of colleagues, I always tell them that your audio is going to matter more than what you look like. What you sound like matters more than what you look like. So if you're not able to, put your hands on a microphone or lapel mic or a Shure mic or a Yeti mic. I have those things. The easiest thing to make sure that you have is wired headphones. And again, I'm somebody that records on my cell phone, so it would be wired earbuds that attach to my ear, and there is a physical cord that plugs into the phone jack. And that gives you much crisper, clearer audio than anything else if you just don't have the budget or the time to go and shop for microphones. So remember that earbuds that plug into your phone, natural sunlight, and maybe a tripod. And that's really it. You don't want to spend too much time getting bogged down on more logistics of that. Later on, after you really get some experience, you can worry about the heavy duty stuff later. But just to get yourself out of the starting gates, that's plenty. Now, tip number 5 actually relates to a goal that I have for the new year. So, right now, I am recording this in fall of 2025. I don't know when you're able to see it. Hopefully, you enjoy it no matter when you have clicked on this video. But I have a goal for the new year by January 2026 that I do want to move into the audio only spaces. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, places like that. But I, again, was deliberate in starting with YouTube because this is where I wanted to kind of cut my teeth. But again, I wanted it to be visual. I wanted to make sure that, I had my representation as a Black woman that was first and foremost with this platform. And YouTube is a great place to have evergreen content. And what do I mean with that terminology? Evergreen content basically means that it is able to live on for years after it first debuts. And it's a search engine first and foremost. So people that are probably finding this video right now, like yourself, maybe you did a YouTube search or a Google search that was how to start a video, or excuse me, how to start a video podcast, or how to start a podcast over 50, or how to start a podcast in midlife. Any of those searchable terminologies probably brought you to this video amongst other search engine results. And that is because YouTube is a search engine and it is owned by Google. So for me, it's actually been beneficial because this is a part of my business building. I do engage with people. I meet folks through some of my content that I put out. And some of those folks want to work with me on a deeper level. And this is their first introduction to who I am and the type of value that I bring. So remember that it doesn't matter the platform that you choose. My recommendation is to choose one and learn the heck out of that one platform, and then start to engage with others and learn more as you go. But don't try to learn everything at one time before you get started. Choose one platform, get rocking with that as best as you can, and build an audience and grow from there. That's it. It basically is taking the first baby step and then letting it snowball as you learn and grow. And tip number 6 is a little bit of a secret. And I'm telling on myself with this one because I actually batch record all of my content. And again, as a midlife professional who has a life and does not want to be working harder than I ever did, I like to save my energy, my dear. And I hope the same for you. So I actually take the practice of creating content days. And it's usually for my big interviews where I bring in guests and we have a full studio set up. That content, which I want to give credit to my production partner, was my brother-in-law, Derek Owens, and he is the one that's behind the camera. Also, Patrick Thompson has been behind the camera, and then we've had another associate, Joshua McMillan. These are all people that have worked with me with creating those really great studio looking polished interviews when we bring guests on. Those sessions we usually schedule once a month. And in one day, we will record 4 to 5 episodes all at once. And sometimes I'm lazy enough where I keep on the same clothes. Sometimes I will change outfits. And there are other times where we'll actually kind of change the angles and mix it up a little bit. But either way, sometimes you will see content that goes on for 2 months and not realize that all of that was recorded on the same day. And that doesn't have to be your situation. That is mine. That was my preference. Some people record every single week and they have that kind of energy. Some people record twice a month. Totally up to them. I know there are some podcasts that put out daily content. The point is that there's really not any rules as long as you stay consistent, because your audience needs to know when they can look for new content from you. At least for me, like I said, I do it once a month. And sometimes, like today, as I'm sitting here, I don't know what I have the energy for. I'll probably end up recording about 2 or 3 videos because I got bigger strategy in mind, but I digress. And this is really to just, show you that this is possible to do all at once. And then I'll have content that I will release very slowly over the next couple of weeks. And I've only put in about an hour's worth of time to get it all recorded and batched. Tip number 7 is about the length of your videos. And in my personal rule, when I do these talking head videos where it's just me talking directly to the camera, I like to keep those episodes about 15 minutes or less. So if I can hit that 10-minute mark, I feel really good because I want to keep the information concise. But if I, start having diarrhea of the mouth and I keep talking and rambling too much, sometimes it spills over to about 15 minutes. But that is kind of my personal max. Now, when I have interviews where people actually come to visit me in person and we record a conversation, then those tend to run about 45 minutes. But again, there's no rule to it. I personally feel that that's what my audience appreciates. So when it's just me giving educational content like this, I like to keep it short and I like to honor your time. But when we have a guest that comes in live, I want them to have a little bit more time and space to really get comfortable sharing their stories, because those are, in my opinion, those are the richer episodes when somebody is able to come in and give a new or alternate perspective. So for me, that's what works. And also, since let me back up and tell you that when it's me recording these talking head videos, those, of course, are on my iPhone. So I really don't want super, super long content, just, clogging up all my iPhone storage and my Google Photos storage. But when it's the team that's coming in and doing the videos, when we have a guest in the studio, then that's where they have their professional equipment that's going to have better capacity than what I'm able to do at home on my own. So decide that for yourself and try to stick with it so your audience knows what to expect. And tip number 8 goes back to that same point about alternating between solo episodes and guest episodes. Me personally, if you go through my YouTube channel, you will see that it's a mix. Some weeks you'll see episodes where it's just me talking like this directly to the camera, and there will be other episodes where I have guests that might be experts in their fields. Maybe they might be people that have overcome incredible struggles. I like to mix that up for my audience, and you've shown that you like it. So I respond to your comments, and it's definitely me that's there having to engage. I won't say having to. I love engaging with you and hearing what you think about all of the content that we put out on this channel. But I will say that it bleeds right into tip number 9, where I like to focus on storytelling. And again, that is my personal preference with my podcast and my channel, because that's the whole point, is sharing our collective midlife experiences so that you have the inspiration to go take what you hear and then go off and have the courage to do your big bold things. So at least for us, the storytelling, not just the facts all the time, is what has benefited this audience. And that's what I'll continue to do as long as you tell me that that's what you want to hear. But I will say that with the comments, with people that engage and give their feedback, I want you to know that it is me that's doing that. There might be other situations where people have big teams or other folks, virtual assistants that are jumping in and helping answer and respond to any questions or any comments. But I'm not that big and bad just yet. Maybe one day, but at least right now, it is just me and myself that is going through and responding to any of the feedback that you give. So please keep it coming, because I want everybody to be able to share and just be able to build this community out. That is ultimately my goal, to build a midlife community that is all about inspiration and sharing big goals. Now, when it is time to start sharing your podcast, once you want to put it out there and get people to see it, that comes down to tip number 10, where you are basically starting with your existing network, the people you already know. You don't have to worry about the big bad outside world just yet. Think about your circle. Think about your professional colleagues. Think about the clients or the professional opportunities that you want to attract. If that is the case, hey, you can start posting this stuff on LinkedIn. That is gold for looking for visibility for professional opportunities. But then also, go to your existing network, your family and friends that already know and love you, and tell them, hey, can you share about my new podcast? Can you share about my new YouTube channel? And then it appears not just on your space, but then also on their Instagram and Facebook or whatever other channels. And that helps maximize your effort in getting new eyes to come in and join your audience. And lastly, my final tip is that I just want you to be consistent. So I've alluded to this already, that you need to put yourself on some type of release schedule. Now, for me, I am comfortable with releasing content every single week. And at the time of this recording, my personal schedule is that I record about a week in advance, sometimes a month in advance. And I have 4 to 5 episodes that are just done and ready. But I have a release schedule of every single Monday. That is my personal promise to my audience, that I will have a new episode of some kind, whether it is me talking directly to camera or with a guest expert or someone, coming in and sharing their story. That is going to be every single Monday. But we have had people that are just as successful by a bi-weekly schedule. Some folks will release every, 3, 4 weeks. So it's a big once a month type of thing. And it just depends. Again, you want to just stay consistent so your audience knows when to look for new content. And just put it out there, in the description, that new episodes every Sunday, new episodes every Tuesday at 5 p.m., whatever. It is totally up to you. Just make sure that you stick to it. And I will also add that as you start to build your audience and they get to know you, you want to make sure that you continue to engage with them, because I personally, again, this is part of my business model as well as just a personal hobby, but I am always wanting to hear the feedback and know what else my audience wants to learn. And by going into the comments, by having some type of engagement with them, that's where I get that kind of feedback. But I will also say this one final thing. I keep saying final tip. I just can't stop talking. But I will say this is that, again, with your release schedule, what you decide, if you are an absolute beginner, and I'm sure you are if you're looking at this video, you can commit to seasons, which is something else that I did early on, is that I decided that we were going to have, I believe, memory fails me right now. I believe when we first sat down, me and my brother-in-law, to create a plan for releasing, and if we were going to be all in on this, I think we said season one was going to be a 12 episode season. And I verbally talked about this with the audience and saying, hey, this is season one, or this is episode one of season one, so that if we got through all 12 episodes and I absolutely hated it, or I burned out, or I felt like the whole effort was just not worth it, then I could say, all right, I finished season one, I finished 12 episodes, and I would be able to just kind of wrap it up with a nice, neat bow. And that worked. And it also allowed me to be able to work in breaks in between scheduled filming. So those first 12 episodes, we put them out, went very well. We kept going, got a lot of encouragement from the audience. And then we took a few weeks off before we released more content for season two. And then again for season three. And I'm going to stop with the air quotes. Goodness, I am terrible with my hands. But that being said, it allowed me time to get used to the schedule. It allowed me to have more strategy with things that worked, again, with minimal effort and maximum return. So think about that. You again get to make all the rules, and I will be glad to answer any questions that you have about all the other things that we learned along the way. And here's a big takeaway that I want you to have. If you are thinking of doing this, or if it at least has crossed your mind, if you are in midlife and you are a professional that's looking to level up some kind of way for the career opportunities, maybe you're making that shift into something new, you absolutely cannot afford to not show up online in a really meaningful way. Doesn't mean, again, you don't have to be some influencer shaking your tail for the camera. That is not at all what I'm advocating for. But I am saying that opportunities will find you in the digital space. So you just kind of have to decide what platform is going to work for you. It doesn't necessarily have to be YouTube. It might be an audio podcast where you get to just stay in your jammies and not have to comb your hair and still put out quality content. But either way, I will say that you need to make sure that this is something you're intentional with your personal brand, if you're looking to have a leveled up presence in this season of life. So think about it this way. For opportunities, people are going to Google you. They are going to look at your LinkedIn profile, or at least hope that you have a LinkedIn profile, and they're going to want to know what your voice is in the digital space. So if you're absent in any kind of way, you're not showing up online in even the smallest formats, it's going to make you look out of touch. And again, as a midlife professional, we don't want to shrink in this season. We're not chasing likes, we're not going after the trends. We're standing firm on our experience and our authority. And the places that you can do that is by creating a digital footprint that is meaningful. Again, doing this in this space allows you to put your information out there at scale. And don't let that scare you, because I just want you to be able to say that this is the platform that you stand on, this is what you stand for, and this is the value that you bring. So let me kind of wrap this up by letting you know that podcasting is just one way that I was able to start showing up and making my own big transitions in midlife. It's just one example, but at least for me, it was a way that I was able to share my voice, connect with others, and really create opportunities that I could not have conceived of had I not taken this big bold step to show up online. But your pivot might look completely different. I'm not saying that everybody has to have a podcast. I'm not saying that everybody has to show up on YouTube, but I can say that if it is a pivot that you're trying to make, whether that is in your career or your business, or maybe just in your home life, this is something that I do. And I am always making sure that this channel is a place where you can get that kind of inspiration to dream big in this season, because I want you to be selfish. I don't want you to put off any of those big ideas that maybe had to take a back seat while you were in your hustle phase or in your parenting phase or in your honeymoon phase in your marriage or other relationships. But here I want to make sure that my channel is always about guiding midlifers to redesign life on their terms after they've gone through those other phases, and they're starting to turn and look inward for what they want this season to look like. So I want to hear from you, because if you've made it this far in the video and you're still thinking of starting a podcast, let me know. What are the questions that I have left unanswered? What are the things that maybe you do want some other expertise or some feedback on? I'm happy to answer and give you the information that I know. I still claim not to be an expert in this space. I am learning every single day, and I really hope that you just take a quick trip down memory lane and go back and look at some of my early podcast episodes. You will see a difference. I feel very comfortable in front of the camera right now, and this is not a super polished video, but I'm okay putting it out, because back then I was still overthinking a whole lot. And I don't think I had the same comfort level or was able to stand firmly in my own voice at that time, but it got better. With every single step we took, every little thing we tried, I got a little bit more polished. So if I'm willing to put my very unrefined stuff out there and invite you to go back and take a look at it, that tells you that it's been worth the journey. And I really want more people to experience this over 50, because we've got a lot. We got a lot to share, and there's other people that can benefit from your story. So I do hope that you don't miss out on this season and take advantage of some of the things that you want to do. And I will always be happy to work a little bit deeper with you if that is your desire. Send me a message, send me a comment. If you would like my one on one professional support as a coach for your midlife transitions, I'm here to help. So let me know what you're thinking, and I will see you next time. Oops, I forgot one thing. See, I'm still learning. If you got anything out of this, if you have enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the channel. It's how I grow. That is how more people find out what we're doing here. And also how you get notifications whenever I put new content out. So again, subscribe, like it, and then share this with somebody you also want to join the conversation. Okay, now really, bye-bye.